Hey guys, it's Jonathan here from PlayGuitar.com. Today, I'm just going to show you a few different tricks that I like to use in the key of D major. Mostly using open chords and things like that. Little riffs, fills, things that you can add on to your chords, to your rhythm playing. Okay, so first off, what are the chords in the key of D? Well, we've got D, we've got A, and G, or D, G, and A, I guess, in the right order. Those are our major chords. Now, what are the relative minor chords? Well, we've got B minor, we've got E minor, and we've got F sharp minor. Okay? If you're unfamiliar about that, head on over to 145.com and check out my lesson on that. Talks about how chords work together and things like that. So those are our chords. What are some things you can do? Well, with the D chord, I like adding the sus right there, the fourth. Basically, you're changing the major third to a fourth. I also like adding the fifth into that chord. If you can stretch it, I'm just grabbing the A on the fifth string, sorry, the fifth fret of the first string. Some other things you can do are play around with some other notes in the scale as your root note for that D chord. And then just pick through the rest of the chord. I also really like dropping off the F sharp. It sounds really good. So I'm just going to kind of give you a few different ideas for some of the different chords, and then you can take them and run with them and come up with something totally unique on your own. So there's some ideas off the D. How about the A? Well, standard, you can go down to an A9. You can suspend it. Basically all I'm doing here is on the B string, I'm dropping off, going down to an open B, and then adding my pinky on the third fret of the second string to suspend that chord. Okay, now another cool thing you can do, because we got B minor in our key, right? So one of the things I like doing is I like barring that A. Takes a little bit of work because you gotta. The trick is to get that E to ring through properly, right? But once you can do that, I like adding on basically, you're kind of moving to a B minor 7 by taking this this inverted third here. And so your B minor chord is like this, right? So all we're doing is we're taking the second and the fourth strings out of that, and then we're just kind of tacking them onto that A. So it is kind of moving to a B minor 7 chord there, but another way you can look at it is just taking those, working with that second string and the fourth string, and then looking at those chords. Give you an idea of how that sounds. It's a very cool little thing that you can do. I usually just strum the rest of the strings open there too, coming off the A. So I'm leaving out the low, the 6th string there. Something to play with, but those inverted thirds, I've done a whole other video on using inverted thirds, and I highly recommend checking out that one. You can find it on PlayGuitar.com. But something you can play with there with your A. Okay, another thing you can do with your A is you could play it as a triad. This is a D, right? So if we just move up this chord pattern, we got D, full tone, which is 2 frets, E, F, G, which was another thing I was going to mention here. So the G is like a D chord pattern on the 7th fret, okay? A is exactly the same thing at the 9th fret. Okay, so that's a fun thing you can play with. And then of course you got the same old suspended and add in that 5th. Gives you the kind of ringly jingly jangly kind of sound. Another thing you can do is you can tack on the minor third, or sorry, the major third. This is a B, right? That belongs in the chord too. This is that B, which is on the 9th fret of the 4th string. When I'm playing that G, it's maybe a little bit small on the video there. You can do that with the A as well, okay? Or with the D for that matter. It all sounds good. So that's another thing that you can play with. I guess while we're in the triad mode, I've got another video on triads too, so I don't want to go into it too much. But you could take the D minor chord pattern, that's not in the key, but move it up and use it as an E minor. You move it up 1 tone or 2 frets, right? Now an E minor is in the key. And there you can fill in the gaps with your minor chords as well, using the triad. So that's another thing you can do in there. All right, G. Lots of fun things you can do with G. One thing I like doing is walking down from the G to the E minor. But one trick you can do is, if your hand is big enough, is you can actually add an F sharp bass to your D chord, okay? So we're going from G to D, but then we're gonna add on that F sharp. If you can wrap your thumb around and just kind of grab that 6th string on the 2nd fret. So it sounds like... Can you hear how that adds a really nice kind of different effect? You can do it without changing to the D as well. Just keeping your fingers on these top 2 strings. And then for that matter, when you're in the E minor, sometimes I like playing these 2 strings in the same way that you would if you were on a G chord. So that D with an F sharp bass can really be quite effective as a tool in there. What else we got? Well, your B minor. Oh yeah, I was going to show you another form of the D chord, which this one might take you a little bit of practice. Okay, it's like a C chord, C major, but we're moving everything up 2 frets and then barring it, okay? So if you've never seen this chord before, you're going to be practicing it for a while. It took me quite a while. Couple quick little pointers is because we're not using the 6th string, I tend to just touch it a little bit with my barring finger, which is my index finger. I just touch it there just to stop it from ringing. Okay, our root note is on the 5th fret of the 5th string. It's that D. Okay, we're grabbing that with our pinky finger. And then the rest is just a C, like the C form chord, right? And then barring across the 2nd fret. So it might take you a while before you can get that sounding clear. But then once you do, you can play with that, adding that B minor 7, you know, those 2 notes that we talked about here too, right? Because they're also part of the C chord. Well, D in this case. Okay, so I think that's probably about all that I got time for today on this short little video. But hopefully that gives you a few tricks that you can play with in the key of D. And we'll see you again next time at GuitarTipsWeekly.com. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the yellow button and subscribe. We'll see you again.